This episode of One Hit Thunder is brought to you by DistroKid. Christian Bale was preparing for his role in American Psycho, dressing the part, hitting the gym, getting his teeth redone. There was just one problem. He didn't actually have the part. Leonardo DiCaprio did. What Went Wrong is a podcast dedicated to the idea that every movie is a miracle. Join Lizzie Bassett and Chris Winterbauer every other week as they unearth the chaos and humanity behind Hollywood's biggest flops and most shocking successes. They aren't here to dunk on your favorite films. They're here to celebrate movies. As the New York Times said, they're movie industry people who truly love films and the people who make them. Listen to What Went Wrong wherever you get your podcasts. Hey there, One Hit Thunder listeners. Are you ready to take your music to the next level? Well, get ready to rock because this episode is brought to you by DistroKid, the ultimate digital music distribution service for artists like you. With DistroKid, you can easily upload your songs or albums to online stores and streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music, reaching fans all around the globe. But that's just the beginning. DistroKid offers a ton of awesome features like Hyperfollow, which helps you promote your releases and get pre-saves on your songs, all for free. But wait, there's more. The DistroKid app is now available on iOS and Android. With the app, you can manage your releases, track your streaming stats, and even withdraw your earnings, all from the palm of your hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. This powerful tool allows you to put the finishing touches on your tracks in minutes, ensuring they sound polished and professional every time. But that's not all. DistroKid has just launched a brand new feature called Instant Share, allowing you to easily share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more. With Instant Share, you can keep your music streaming at the highest quality while making the best impression possible. So what are you waiting for? Elevate your music career today with DistroKid and unlock a world of possibilities. Possibilities that I know all about because I've been using DistroKid for years. It's seriously great. If you haven't used it before, you're going to love it. And One Hit Thunder listeners get an exclusive offer, 30% off your first year with DistroKid by signing up at distrokid.com/VIP/OneHitThunder. That's distrokid.com/VIP/OneHitThunder. I keep on dancing for Daddy gonna turn the jerk right now. Shake it, baby. It's been a while since our friend Jonathan London joined us, but with his new comic, Hero of the Prophecy, crowdfunding now, we thought it was the perfect time to talk about a wrestling-connected musician. Jimmy Hart and his 1965 hit with the Gentrys, Keep on Dancing. While the Gentrys' time in the spotlight was brief, the mouth of the South Jimmy Hart's career stretched far beyond the 60s, making waves in both music and wrestling. We dive into the band's history, the simplicity of their one big hit, and the fascinating crossover between music and the mat. Keep on dancing, keep on doing a jerk. Shake it, baby. Come on and show me how you work. One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes me wonder, is it just a wonder, or is it one hit thunder? So Jonathan, welcome back to the show. It's been a little while, and I'm pretty excited to talk to you today because this involves a world that you know a lot about, and we're going to get to it. A member of the band we are talking about today, the Gentrys from the 60s, who you might know from the song Keep on Dancing, which this song I know, Jonathan, you and I have already talked about this on FaceTime, but I first knew this song as a kid. There were these little Muppets. They were little Muppets that if you played music, they danced. And in the commercial for these little Muppets, they played this song, I Keep on Dancing, and it would be the Muppets dancing. I don't know that I actually owned one, but do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I used to see them in the Toys R Us aisles all the time. Mm-hmm. And I remember the commercial. I don't remember the song for the commercial. I just remember the commercial.
Yeah.
I remember them shaking their little booties.
Yeah.
See, and Chris, when you've talked about it, I thought of in a similar vibe in like the late 80s, early 90s. my grandfather's house had a practice space in it that like all of my different family members who were musicians, their bands would practice there. And they had those like sunflowers with sunglasses on them that when you play music, it would just kind of like bop back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Those
It was like
things
the
are
musical
awesome.
bass. It was like the dancing bass.
Yeah.
As
Well,
well.
Yeah, I think we need to bring those back. Chris, can you start putting those all over the stage for Punchline shows as a bunch
Those
of
things are
sunflowers with
awesome.
sunglasses that
Those
dance?
things
Don't
are
worry
awesome.
about Punchline. Punchline will take care of themselves. Okay, that's Jim Legrando's job. Here at One Hit Thunder, why are there not One Hit Thunder branded dancing bass, dancing flowers with sunglasses?
It's different because the bass, Billy the Big Mouth Bass, that actually played music itself. Like you pressed a
And so
button.
did the flowers, I think.
No.
right?
No, the
The
flowers,
flowers-
you could hit a button to read. Like, you could hit a button and it would sing like My Girl, but otherwise it just reacted to the sounds in the room.
That's
So
right.
like as a band was playing, it would just like bop back and forth for you.
That's right.
I think we need to make a One Hit Thunder branded toy.
It's just our lightning bolt.
Yeah.
Just something that dances
Yeah.
and it reacts to it. And if the song had another hit, it doesn't dance at all.
That's very much a Spencer's gift type of thing. Just like another thing I think of from the 80s that you would definitely buy in Spencer's. I wouldn't be surprised if they still sold these in Spencer's, but Moonies. Do you guys remember Moonies? Do you know what
You're gonna
Moonies
have to
are?
remind me. When's the
Yeah,
last
you
time
squeeze
went
the
to
little
Spencer's?
button.
Oh,
I
I-
walked past one like last week.
Yeah, I still go in Spencer's all the time. But there's a Spencer's in the mall by me. I was in the mall this week, actually. I didn't go in Spencer's, but I walked past it.
I did too. Like the fires out here in California, like I would, to get like clear air and get out of the house, I would just take the baby to the mall and walk around. I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense, because I used to go to the mall and be like, who are these people just bringing their babies to walk around? Oh, I became one of those people.
I thought you were going to say
Because-
to escape the fires, you went to Spencer's. And I was
No,
like,
Yeah,
it-
went to
it-
Spencer's. He needed to get
No,
some
just to
comedy
get out of the
brand
house.
sunscreen.
to get out of the house and maybe get an Elvira poster.
Yeah. John, I'll tell you what, if you've ever set foot in a Spirit Halloween over the last like 15 years, you've basically stepped into a Spencer's, because
I'm worried about
that's who
getting,
owns
like-
that brand. So
I'm worried about a Spirit Halloween like being in there and then it getting like turned into something else and I'm trapped inside.
oh yeah, no, that's happened.
Hey,
There's
Moonies.
reports of
What,
that.
what? Yeah, what are Moonies? Sorry.
Yeah,
about
John,
that.
you don't remember Moonies? It was like a Chris. Can I explain? Because I think I remember this. Tell me if I'm wrong.
go ahead.
It was like an odd-shaped man with like pants that you
Yes.
would suction cup to the side of your car, and there was a little like squeezer that would make
Yeah.
him pull down his pants and show his butt to the car beside you.
Yep, that's exactly what a Moonie is.
A little too base for me, but I do remember them now. I think there was a flashing version with a woman, if I'm not.
There was a boobies.
There might have been a boobies. There might have been a boobies. I know there wasn't a flim flang or whatever the frontal equivalent would have been, but yeah. You get arrested for that stuff, man. Like,
Yeah.
damn.
No, I think Moonies are pretty tame nowadays. I think Moonies are very accepted.
Yeah, you either had a Mooney on your car or a Garfield. Those were like the big 80s and 90s suction
Yes.
cup things on your car.
I had a Spider-Man for a while.
Of course you
within
did.
the last 6-7 years.
It's the least
But,
shocking statement on this podcast so far.
I think what we do is make a Mooney that's branded One Hit Thunder.
That's just pulls it down his pants and it says
Pulls
One
on
Hit
his pants,
Thunder
it says
with a
One Hit
QR
Thunder.
code to take you to our...
Something they gotta pull their phones out while they drive.
Gotta bring
Try and
back.
get that QR code to propagate.
Gotta bring back the Moonies. But we're not here to talk about Moonies today. We're here to talk about the Gentrys Keep On Dancing. The Gentrys being at the time where they had this hit, a 7-piece band featuring Jimmy, Mouth of the South Hart, as he would become known as many years later in the band. But I don't know if you guys realize this. It is not Jimmy Hart singing this song.
My jaw was on the floor when I read that.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought that the whole thing was like, this was his big hit prior to wrestling, and it was the one song he sat out on the record.
In his only job, everybody in the band is maybe playing guitar, maybe somebody's a drummer. His only job was to be
Yeah.
a singer, and this is a song he's not singing on.
Yeah.
He's in the video singing, or
Yeah.
like backup singing in the video when there's footage of this song, but no, he doesn't have an instrument, nothing to do, and this is not his song. Maybe he gets that credit because he tried to bring the band back a few times, like into the 70s. But
Yeah. He did.
no,
He did. It was a real when in Rome situation, as we recently discussed. It was like, you are not the most important member, actually, of this band.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought that their origin story is so funny and so 60s because
I was going to say, it is the most late 50s, early 60s origin
it's the
story
Oneaters.
imaginable.
Yes.
it's the straight up Oneaters. Like, that's what
right. Yeah, they in September 1964 they won third place in the Mid-South Fair talent competition and auditioned for, of course they auditioned for, the Ted Mack Amateur Hour. And then they soon became the most popular teenage band in the Mid-South. And in 1964, they won the Memphis Battle of the Bands. This sounds a lot like my band's origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll never forget the first time we played the Ted Mack Amateur Hour.
Well, because, John, I don't know if you were thinking this the same way that I was, but obviously, we're talking about this particular song because Jimmy Hart's in it, and we're talking about a comic book that you're here to promote, starring your brother, Paul London, who is also a wrestler. And honestly, when I hear Mid-South, I think of like pre-WWE wrestling like territories. Yeah, like the original territories. It was like, oh, this is the Mid-South wrestling territory that he came out of. Like, I don't really associate the term Mid-South with anything but wrestling. So the idea that it stemmed
Okra.
Yeah, like it's like the idea that it was like, oh, this is the Mid-South Fair. This is like the Mid-South music competition. Like, okay, I guess that was just a thing in the 60s that they like co-opted in the 70s and kind of made it what people associate it with now.
Yeah, pre-internet's wild.
Yeah.
Like Al Gore won, he brought the world together, for better or worse.
Yeah.
But the thing about, do you guys watch that Vince McMahon documentary
I
where
did.
he talks about like straight up like going after these different regional federations and eating them alive to like form the WWF,
Right.
Yeah.
which obviously brought us the problem, Jimmy the Mouth from the South, Hart. But that was crazy seeing him just start going after the rivals and start merging them all in. And we were talking Roddy Piper on another podcast, and Roddy Piper came from like it was like always loyal to Portland in that region, in that territory. So he would never go up against the organizers in that territory. Like I think that was his thing, to the point where this one action film we talked about on another podcast, his character name is something like Billy Blanks' character is like something Portland. James Portland. He's got to get that shout out to Portland because he's still like a territory mark.
We gotta rep your territory.
You
gotta
do
rep the
well,
territory.
but Chris, I think what John's saying is like the opposite in a certain sense, which is that like Roddy Piper, while signed to the WWF, refused to wrestle the matches that were in Portland because he didn't want to be taking eyes away from the local Portland Wrestling Federation that he originally came from.
Oh,
because I guess in his like his mindset was like, I don't want people who should be going to like a small struggling wrestling organization being like, oh, our homeboy Roddy Piper's at the big giant WWF show, let's go to that instead. So he just refused to ever wrestle in those cities.
So Roddy Piper,
so that he wasn't the attraction.
And you'd heard that story, Matt? Had you heard
I
that
had.
story?
I mean, I've heard that there was a couple. There's always like versions of that story. Like I think Sami Zayn right now in WWE kind of has like a very strict. I mean, his is much more morality based. It's like he will not do the Saudi Arabia shows. Like he refuses to fly over there. But that's also because of like his background, like where he comes from as a person, as much as everything else. Where it's like, yeah, no, that Saudi Arabia has tried to kill most of my heritage, so like I'm not gonna fucking wrestle for them. But yeah, there's
Chris,
some stories of wrestlers being like, I won't perform in that city for this reason or that reason.
Chris, where will Punchline not perform?
Yeah, where's the one city you'll never play?
Where are the places where you're like, we don't do that?
Man, I don't
You
want
can
to
say Saudi Arabia. That's why
I don't.
Like, morally,
I don't want to like make people mad by saying this, but it's so funny. We used to always play in Toledo, Ohio, and then we had some okay shows there. But our last show there, which has been years and years ago, was so bad that we all just made agreement like we're not playing Toledo anymore. We're done with Toledo. And that was the end of it. Like, we never went back. And that's no offense to anybody like that. We, there's nice people in Toledo. We had good shows there in the past, but we were just like, that's a completely different reason why we wouldn't play there. But
you know what's great about the people in Toledo? They can go to like Cleveland or Cincinnati or anywhere else
Detroit,
in Ohio to see it.
Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were kind of over it at that point. But for morality reasons, are there places we wouldn't play?
The White House for the next 4 years.
I'm sure they exist. Hey, I think it's really funny too with this Gentrys. You'd think there'd be more information about their rise, or maybe things were just different in the 60s. But basically, after they played like these, I don't know, regional talent shows, they signed to a record label called Youngstown Records, made their first record Sometimes, which was popular like locally in 1965. It was kind of like I listened to it. It's like a slow, danceable ballad that's in 6/8 time signature. And then the very next piece of information I could find about the Gentrys is they scored 1 million sales with Keep On Dancing, which reached number 4 on the Hot 100 in 1965. To give it some context, guys, at the time, the Keep On Dancing hit number 4 on the charts. The number 1 song in the country was Yesterday by the Beatles. And number 3 was Get Off of My Cloud by the Rolling Stones, which I think might be my favorite Rolling Stones song.
It's a good song. And also surrounded on that top 5, 2 songs that I barely know or have never heard of. At number 2 was The Toys, A Lover's Crescendo. Concerto. There it is. And then I only know the number 5 hit because of a Simpsons joke, which is Gary Lewis and the Playboys with Everybody Loves a Clown.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, I know you've heard the Toys Lovers Concerto because it was Heidi and I's first dance song.
Really?
Oh,
what are the freaking chances of that?
Mm-hmm.
Should you have been on here for the toys instead?
I think I should have been. I think I should have just had, the Gentrys be our first dance song. Instead.
I mean, I think that would have really made people. I'll tell you,
save me some time because this is a short ass song.
Yeah,
Jonathan, do we know a Lover's Concerto? I can't think of how it goes. I'll pull it up on my phone,
I'm
I
not
guess.
The singer on the podcast, guys.
Yeah.
You're the singer, Chris. Matt is the sometimes singer, and I am the never singer.
A Lover's Concerto. I maybe I know this song and don't realize. Who's it by? The Toys.
That's it. I'll just start dancing my first dance again.
Oh, okay. I know this.
Yeah, I know this.
Oh, this song's awesome.
Oh, I definitely know this song. That song rules.
That song kicks.
Yeah, that's going on a playlist.
That song's
immediately
really good. Okay,
that song rips.
When I was looking at the rest of the top 20 to see like, are there any songs that I even like can sniff familiarity from? Like, there was a couple from artists whose names I knew, but the song I didn't. But the 3 that jumped out at me, also in the top 20 at this time, was the McCoys' "Hang On Sloopy" at number 9.
That's a good one.
Fontella Bass with "Rescue Me."
Okay.
You guys know?
Yeah.
Chris, you know that one.
Of course.
Rescue me and tell me in your
That's
arms.
a mega hit.
It's a big song. And then I wrote this one down. Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass with "Taste of Honey."
Fantastic song.
One more, Matt, just to give some context. At number 22 at this moment was "Do You Believe in Magic" by the Lovin' Spoonful. And "Help" from the Beatles was number 32 at this point.
This is a stack.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good top 40. There were no new additions that I recognized. I always try to see what debuted that week, and nothing jumped out at me on the debuts.
And they were rewarded for this by like touring with Sonny and Cher, being on Dick Clark. Like they really
played with the Beach Boys. They toured with the Beach Boys when it was good, when Brian Wilson was still in the band and not a Mike Love vanity project.
And they also appeared on, now I don't know what these are, but I see them listed a lot when we do episodes about 60s artists. They played on Hullabaloo, they played on Shindig, and they played on Where the Action Is. And they also played on some Dick Clark build shows, which I mean, even until recent years, if you're playing at something that Dick Clark is putting on, you're playing at like New Year's Eve or something. So I'm assuming that was big then too. The Gentrys then they went on to release 5 follow-up singles, all which failed to break the top 40.
Chris, I'm legitimately shocked by you right now because I purposely didn't write down the names of some of the TV shows that the Gentrys performed on.
Oh.
Because I thought for sure the game today was going to be, is this a TV show the Gentrys played on or just a random word I made up?
That would have been so good. You should have made the game. I would have played that game.
Coming up on Hula Baloo.
And they did appear in a movie right before they broke up. It's a Bikini World.
Yes.
I'm sure it was a fantastic film.
Well,
Jonathan, do you teach that in your film class?
I don't.
I feel like I learned some stuff.
Like, you want to break up a band?
I think I learned some stuff about that movie, though. It's a Bikini World. I think that was maybe slightly a parody of those kind of movies.
I was going to say, is that like a Frankie and Annette type movie or a parody of a Frankie and Annette movie? Okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I somehow learned a lot about that, and I guess I didn't write it down, but I definitely think that It's a Bikini World. Look into it, because I think it's like slightly cool.
It's not another teen movie.
Hold on a second, Chris.
Yeah.
You know who else was in that movie?
Okay, tell me, because there's something about this movie. I don't know why I don't have it in my notes, but maybe there's a reason I know about this movie.
Was it because we maybe talked about it when we did Monster Mash? Because Bobby Boris Pickett's one of the stars of the movie.
I know why I know it now. God damn it, Matt. I wish I wouldn't have said that. You know why? Because I have a game later in our thing, and that was one of the questions.
Okay, that's why. Anyway, it featured cameos from musical groups like the Gentrys, the Animals, the Toys, who we just talked about, and it featured a pro-feminist plotline and is the only beach party genre film directed by a woman.
Yes, there's a lot of cool stuff about It's a Bikini World.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, maybe I will check this out. It's only 86 minutes.
Yeah, why not?
It's worth doing.
Hey, I got some
fun
facts about the song Keep on Dancing. It's notable for the fact that it is actually one short recording repeated. They put it twice in a row to make it the length of a typical pop single of that day. The second part of the song, like if you have the single record, it's just, there's like a fake fade out and then a drum fill comes back in and they just replay the song again on the thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, okay, this is natural, but there's still a minute, almost a minute left on this YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, the song's back.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I mean, that's got to be one of the first times that there's been a fake out in a song.
Hey, I think it's so funny to think about them writing this song. This is truly the definition of a bop. It's like it's like someone came in, it's like, guys, I got a new song. Goes like this. I keep on dancing. And they're like, okay. All right, how about the rest of it? Nope, that's it. That's the song.
What's the lead up?
Yeah, we're just going to jam and repeat that as many times as we possibly can.
Jam and repeat.
Yeah. I hate to spoil the future of this episode, folks, but we're not going to be doing a lyrical breakdown on this one.
So as we talked about earlier, usually Jimmy Hart and Bruce Bowles were the singers of this band, but this song, it was actually, I love this name, Larry Raspberry sang lead vocals on this song, and I really hope that's his real name. That's an incredible name.
There's so much to love about just the name Larry Raspberry. Like, it has a nice rhyme to it. It's got raspberry in it.
You can immediately picture the guy too. Like, he's like, I got my smokes rolled up in my sleeve here.
It also feels like it feels like that shouldn't be his name, and this is like the parody name in like a California Raisins episode where they're like making a reference to this person.
Yeah, he's named after like a fruit cereal or something.
Yeah, like it's because like I know that so one of my like childhood memories, and I did find it on DVD and buy it because I'm Matt Kelly. That's what I do. But there was a TV.
I have to live in them forever.
There was a TV special called Meet the Raisins, which was like a 30-minute documentary about the California Raisins, and there was so many puns on like band names. Like I remember like the one was like Johnny Radish was like the punk singer that showed up, and it was like Lick Jagger was like the random, like it was always these like food related puns. So like Larry Raspberry just feels like another character that should have been part of the Meet the Raisins storyline and not the actual birth name of this man.
How do you think he got that nickname?
I think that's his name. I think he was born to the Raspberry family, and they said, "Let's name him
Hart,
Larry."
Yeah, sure, sure, okay.
Well,
All right.
What? Anyway, Jimmy Hart, after unsuccessfully, not getting any more songs in the top 40, it seems like most of the band were like, okay, we're good. But Jimmy Hart reformed the band in 1969 with himself as the lead singer. And we'll get into whether this is cool or not in a little bit here, because you guys probably know more than me, because at this point, I don't know if Jimmy Hart's a piece of shit or not, and we'll get into that, I'm sure. But
well, you saw the company he keeps in this new iteration.
That's the thing, is that yes, in recent times, as we're recording this, Hulk Hogan is a huge piece of shit. We all know that. But
I don't mean that, but like there's people from like Elvis's entourage that are in this new iteration.
He's got like some of the new version of the Gentrys. He had like some of the people from the Memphis Mafia, which was like Elvis's backup band.
That's why I say what I say, because like whatever you think about Hogan, you think of Hogan. But like, I got tons of Hogan stories.
I would say
behind the scenes.
I would say with Jimmy Hart, it's hard to say if Jimmy Hart agrees or disagrees with Hogan, because I think the one thing I've learned about Jimmy Hart is that he just loves a spotlight and a payout.
Sure. I mean,
and a megaphone.
Wait,
guys, like in a megaphone.
Fill me in a little bit, because maybe I'm ignorant.
Matt Kelly is our Jimmy Hart at Geekscape. He's our manager.
Maybe I'm ignorant a little bit as to this Elvis's backing band thing, but I feel like I've watched, movies about Elvis, the terrible one with Tom Hanks, and then I watched the Priscilla movie, which I actually thought was good. And, I'm not a big Elvis guy, but why are these people all terrible people? His backing band?
I mean, they were not a backing band; they were his management group.
Yeah, they were like this entourage.
Okay,
yeah, there was entourage, and
that's where the TCB comes from. Like his Memphis Mafia was called the TCB, which stood for Taking Care of Business, because anything that Elvis needed done, he would just have the TCB take care of it. They
also kept him high as a kite.
Okay.
They filled him with drugs.
Okay. Gotcha. But this Jimmy Hart's kind of hanging with these people. I get it.
He's chilling with them.
Yeah, he's chilling with them. So when you see Hogan turn heel, both in fiction and in real life, I don't think that's too far from.
Yeah,
I don't think he and Jimmy had too many discussions about, hey man, I don't think you should do this. They're probably like, hell yeah,
okay,
let's go.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Let's get some of that real American beer money.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
I don't think they hated that Netflix intro either. When Hogan just started getting booed a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, he's probably booing you too, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro.
So in 1970, at this point, when Jimmy Hart reforms the Gentrys with himself as the sole lead singer, they recorded an album, and they did get 2 singles into the Hot 100. Why Should I Cry, which hit number 61. I don't know if you guys listened to this song, but I'm like, I wasn't sure whether I knew this song or if it just sounded a lot like a song I knew, because
I feel like it just sounds like a lot of generic songs of that time, honestly.
And then he hit number 52 with the song Cinnamon Girl, which was a cover of a Neil Young song. But this Why Should I Cry song. Now,
wait, Chris, did Neil Young cover it, or was it covered a Neil Young song?
He covered a Neil Young song. Guys, listen to this Why Should I Cry song real quick, and tell me this doesn't sound so familiar to you.
The sha-la-las sound really familiar, but I also feel like they could be from anything.
Maybe it sounds like the Partridge Family or something.
Yeah, like
it definitely feels Partridge-ish.
Maybe.
Yeah, like I was actually going to say like Brady Bunch. Like I'm
okay.
And now let's do the timeline, because when he was on the Gentrys, they were just out of high school. They're doing the regional tours. They're singing their songs. At this point, with this song, he's now probably in his mid-30s doing this shit.
No. He's because
you don't think so?
No, because Gentrys, it was 1964. This is only 1969. It's only 5 years later.
Okay.
So I don't know if Jimmy Hart himself was a high schooler at that time, but let's say even if he was 20, he's only mid-20s at this point, 25.
All right, he can still get away with a couple of sha-na-na-na-nas
Sure.
and not look like the weird older brother.
Sure. I think I could get away with
Okay.
sha-na-nas in my 40s if I really wanted to.
Let's get. Well, funny enough, you have a microphone in front of yourself. Let's give it a shot. Matt, back him up.
Yeah, I stay away from the shalas and the lalas and the fafas these days, except when I'm saying my last name. But, I'm not opposed to that, any kind of stylistic thing. I don't hold that against him, but
No, the whoa-whoa-whoas and the na-na-nas and the ba-ba-bas, like you need that stuff in some rock music.
can't blame him for that. But then, he has these songs almost hit the top 40, and then they signed to Capitol in 1971, and Jimmy Hart and Wesley Stafford wrote a song called Let Me Put This Ring Upon Your Finger. Here's where I would say that Jimmy Hart, I had this question in my mind is like, okay, if none of the original band is there and he's like taking that name and just trying to salvage what he can out of that, I don't know. I guess I can't blame him if he had some success after, especially I didn't read anything about like the ex-members being pissed about it or something. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm, and this is not me throwing this person under the bus because, he would say the same thing. But like, we've had Scott from Zayal on this
I love how you
podcast.
say
How many
their
times?
name.
Yeah, but like
Zayal.
there's not a single original member of that band left.
The singer.
You know what I mean? Like they're all no. The singer came on their third album.
Oh.
Like there is Scott is the most senior member of that band, and he joined on their second album.
Okay.
So like it happens sometimes in music where you're just kind of like bringing in. Now this feels different. Like it's different than like having an active band and just slowly like a new guitarist comes in, a new vocalist comes in, and then suddenly next thing you know, you've actually funneled through the original five guys.
This is like GNR with like Buckethead.
Yeah, this is like Axl Rose just out of nowhere coming out with
Buckethead.
none of the original band of Guns N' Roses and being
I wonder
like,
what's Buckethead doing right now?
playing a show, I think in Cincinnati in like a week.
Is he still a member of GNR?
No.
Matt's on Buckethead's mailing list. He played a show in
I do. I need to
Cincinnati
know.
tonight, actually.
He's
Do you
playing in
subscribe
Cincinnati in a week.
to Buckethead's Substack to get his internal thoughts?
Buckethead is not music I can sit and enjoy listening to for like long periods of time, but I can't deny the man is very good at playing guitar.
That's true.
Like
That is true.
he is like an insanely talented guitarist to watch for 3
Guys,
to
we
4
gotta
minutes.
get Buckethead on this show.
He won't talk to us. He won't talk to anybody.
Why not?
He doesn't talk.
We can just say he was on this episode,
Yeah.
actually. He just never said anything.
Yeah, he was joining us.
Fe-
Hey, Buckethead.
Featuring Jonathan
Thanks, co-host.
London and Buckethead.
Buckethead.
Buckethead, if I may interject, Buckethead. And guys, I have no problems with you guys advertising this episode with my co-host here, Buckethead. Go for it. Put it on all the
Chris, from
marketing.
here on out, any episode that's just you and I will be featuring Buckethead.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus and present in Virginia. First online, real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey, this is Steve Choi, host of the Musicians Guild podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Within the four walls of the Musicians Guild, we'll be discussing the habits, idiosyncrasies, experiences, and general psychology of my friends and peers, all involved with music in various capacities. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, it's Jonathan London of the Geekscape podcast, and I want to tell you all about the first official Geekscape comic book, Paul London, Hero of the Prophecy. This is equal parts sci-fi fantasy, comedic adventure, and pro wrestling entertainment told in a nostalgic style. If you're a fan of 80s films like Conan the Barbarian, Krull, Willow, the Beastmaster, and comedic mistaken identity movies like The Army of Darkness, Three Amigos, and Galaxy Quest, you're gonna love Paul London, Hero of the Prophecy. That's right, I wrote it about my younger brother Paul London, former WWE Cruiserweight and Tag Team Champion. But in this story, he's now washed up, down on his luck, and then magically transported across the universe to a distant planet of sword and sorcery. Once there, he's mistaken to be the hero of the prophecy, destined to free an entire kingdom from the evil sorcerer Ramzar. This is 26 pages of full-color pro wrestling fantasy comic book adventure. Podcast listeners, this is a comic for you. Go to herooftheprophecy.com to learn more. Paul London, Hero of the Prophecy.
Hey, so at this point, guys, as far as Jimmy Hart goes, we could talk about the wrestling because there was this gap, and then all of a sudden, Jimmy Hart becomes Mouth of the South. I don't know what happened in the in-between, in the decade in-between, but he went on to compose entrance music for wrestlers. He appeared as a member of the Wrestling Boot Band, which was a group fronted by Hulk Hogan, and he has managed, now this, look, maybe you guys are going to know more about my question earlier. Is Jimmy Hart a piece of shit or not? But
That's the game.
Yes, but he did manage Andy Kaufman, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
He also managed the Honky Tonk Man, Bret Hart, Jim Neihart, so the Hart Foundation, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Jerry the King Lawler, $1 Million Man, Erwin R. Shyster, The Mountie, The Natural Disasters, Dino Bravo, The Nasty Boys, The Giant, which I think is real funny, like, the Giant didn't know that there was an Andre the Giant. How could you be the Giant? It would be like if I was a wrestler, if I was the Hulk or something like you.
Yeah, you should be Chris Hulkster for
Hulkster. Yeah. And of course,
Yeah, take it back.
And of course, Jimmy Hart managed Hulk Hogan too. And then,
of course,
you know, he was a big part of like the whole Andy Kaufman wrestling thing that happened in like the early 80s. And I think it's real funny. I'm sure you guys know this, but I didn't know that around this time, Jimmy Hart was known as the Wimp.
Yeah. Well, because that was like the manager's role, right?
Yeah.
Like, so good guys never have a manager, ever. You'll never see like the baby face with a manager. It's always like the guy who's going to cheat to win, and he has his manager there to make a distraction or this, that, and the other thing. And I think Jimmy Hart, more than almost any other manager, it was like him and like Bobby the Brain were usually the two heel managers that would always run away from a fight the second that it turned. The second it went south for them, they would get.
And Paul Bearer.
Yeah,
Paul Bearer definitely hit people with some urns.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, Paul Bearer would stick it out. Like, if things weren't going well for whoever Jimmy Hart or Bobby the Brain was managing, they were hightailing it out of the arena.
And the best is he would flail his arms like a freaking like Looney Tunes character in the jacket and everything. Like, it was a big part. He's a great hype man.
Yeah, he wrote.
Say what you will, but the dude's a hype man. He probably, even with the Gentrys, the dude was a massive hype man.
Yeah.
He may have written one of the best wrestling entrance theme songs because, you know, he wrote a bunch of them, but the big one that he wrote is Sexy Boy for Shawn Michaels, which is a fucking banger of a song.
That one's good.
I was looking into this a little bit while we were talking about it. He did also work on, and they kept putting these out until the 2000s, but every year there was a different wrestling album from like 1995. And like later it just became like, when you get into like the Attitude Era, it's just like, here's the theme songs for all of your favorite wrestlers. But the first like 3 or 4, like the wrestling album Pile Driver, and I forget what the third one's called, were like, here's the wrestlers singing songs. Like the one is, Chris, if you want a good laugh, look up WWF wrestlers singing Land of a Thousand Dances, because it's literally just the entire lineup of WrestleMania on a stage. It's like, nah, 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 with Jimmy Hart like fronting them. But he wrote a song for one of those albums called Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield.
Yeah, I know.
Which was just him coming at Rick Springfield.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Hey,
You don't come at
do you guys,
Rick Springfield. Don't come at Rick Springfield.
you guys, I always mark my era of watching wrestling as a kid as being around WrestleMania 5. Now, that is the Hulk versus Macho Man, Miss Elizabeth in the middle storyline.
Good stuff.
But I think I can kind of mark my end of watching wrestling. Two things I can mark are my end of watching wrestling and then my attempt to watch wrestling again, which we all know what that is.
I know that one, yeah.
But we'll fill Jonathan in on that in a second. But I think my moment of stopping watching wrestling was when the theme song for whatever WrestleMania was at that time was the one that went, whoa, whoa, it's WrestleMania. Do you guys remember this song?
Yeah, I do remember the
lousy.
song. They still bring that one back out of retirement sometimes,
I think
Chris.
I
They
heard
love
that song.
one.
I think I heard that song and went, okay, I'm good. I'm good on wrestling.
Guys, I think my era was when there was a cartoon.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like
Yeah,
that
the
was
Hulk
when
Hogan wrestling buddies and shit like that.
that cartoon was amazing. And everything else I was like, oh, that's Paul's thing. It's like Paul my brother probably won't get all involved in comics or, too much of the geek pop culture stuff. And wrestling was like his lane, and I sort of kind of watched wrestling through the periphery of what was going on with him.
Right.
So I did watch a lot of like mid 2005 to 2010.
Well,
It's like, all right, I'll watch
When
it.
you
You
watch,
see
like-
what he's involved in.
I was gonna say you'd support your brother here and there when he was like actually there.
I would hope
I had
so.
to.
Yeah.
I would hope
Vince
so.
McMahon wouldn't pay for rental cars and hotels.
Well, you
I was driving them.
I mean, Chris, I don't know if you know this. I end up texting John and Paul usually right around this time of the year because we're recording this just before the Royal Rumble. But like year after year after year, there is always the top 10 greatest Royal Rumble eliminations lists, and Paul is always in the top 5.
Nice.
For the elimination that he had. And Chris, you should pull it up. It was like 10 seconds. It
Tim
is
Snitsky.
the most insanely acrobatic elimination I've ever watched someone do. And John, I think you've told me that like you were watching that live and had a very long period of time where you were worried for Paul.
They
'cause you
played it
didn't-
Whoa.
up, Chris. They play it. They play it up with like because he lands on concrete, and then
Yeah.
they bring out like a stretcher, and they really play up like he's injured. It looks like Snitsky takes his head off, and I'm calling Paul, and a couple hours
Dude.
later, Paul calls us like, "Hey man, what's up? Why are you blowing my phone?" And I was like, "Dude, I just saw you die on TV." He's like, "I'm at Hooters, or I think I'm at TGI Fridays or something
How-
with Brian," and I'm like, "What are you? What the? That was the most impressive acrobatics. He doesn't even touch it.
How hurt did
Snitsky
he
looks
get?
like he takes his head off. Didn't get hurt at all.
Yeah, he didn't get hurt at all. He
Really?
has like that body control to get out of the way of the injury, basically.
Wow.
Snitsky doesn't touch him. It looks like he takes his head off.
Right.
But Snitsky grazes his hair. Paul just does a backflip off the apron onto the concrete. It's incredibly impressive, and it pops up on my feed on Instagram and this
Wow.
and that
Constantly.
every year.
I mean, he's going to
with
go
Royal
down
Rumble.
for history as like one of those iconic moments,
Huh.
which would
It was
honestly get
good.
more attention if Vince McMahon and Triple H didn't hate your brothers. So
Well, I don't know if they hate my brother as much as they just didn't see a ability to market
Yeah.
cruiserweights at that point because you couldn't turn them into like movie stars, action figures, this and that.
Yeah.
So the cruiserweights were kind of in that era. Were kind of like was just sort of floating around.
they were literally the like, hey, we've got 3 minutes. We're short 3 minutes. Let's bring out the tiny guys to like bounce around
Well,
in the ring. For
what-
5
But I'll tell
minutes.
you what about the bouncy guys, but they were usually the last thing before intermission, or they're usually like the first half of the show. You'd get boring chants at the second half of the show, and Vince had to start dubbing the TV broadcasts
Yeah.
with cheers because, you'd get people out there trying to hit each other, and you're like, oh, this is just a
Yeah,
This is just bad.
I like watching wrestling more when it feels like what Paul does. When it feels
I
like a
love their
very
cruiserweights.
impressive like stunt show. More
It drives
than
me crazy. It drives me crazy watching him. I saw him get 12 staples in his head in San Diego. Like that, he grazed a bolt going through between the ropes, and that was horrid.
Yeah.
But that stuff is so impressive, and it's the one thing where I'm like, oh yeah, that's real. Think what you will about wrestling. That acrobatics, that choreography, and matching up improvisationally with your partner, and not always getting, it's crazy. It's
there's
really
a Mick
impressive.
Foley quote that I love where he says, "You can fake a lot of things in the ring, but you can't fake gravity."
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that Royal Rumble elimination was so good. And Paul tells the story that he went into the back, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, that was amazing!" And one of the agents who didn't want the Royal Rumble to get blown up that early and wanted to save the big moments for the end, he walked up to Paul and goes, "Yeah, it was good,
Yeah,
a little too good." Paul's like, "What the fuck do you guys want from me? I'm trying to like please the audience with this with something exciting, you know."
What years was he in the WWF?
I think 2004 or 5.
Yeah,
It was for a handful of years, but by 2010, it was like that. It wasn't going to last. Like he had discs in his back that were starting to look like carrot shapes. Like he was hitting on that mat, and there are times when he fractured his arm, and they'd spray it down with some kind of numbing spray and be like, "Hey, you sprained it, get back out there." And it wasn't until he'd go and get a massage or something independently where they're like, "Hey, when did you fracture your arm?" And he's like, "I didn't fracture my arm. I sprained it a few times." They're like, "No, you fractured your arm."
Well,
they just get back out there, kid. And so him leaving WWE was kind of good for him living.
Well, this is actually a good segue into I do want to talk about your comic book Hero of the Prophecy, where the star of the comic book is your brother Paul London, and the story is about him being a wrestler who kind of crosses a sort of portal, would you say, into another world. And I read it for the first time this week, and I think it's incredible. You are, I think by the time this episode comes out, you will have launched the Kickstarter for it. Is that right?
Yep.
And
sure.
Before I want to talk about that a little bit more with you, Jonathan, but I just was curious because I referenced this, and I've probably talked about it 10 times on various podcasts at this time, but was your brother in the WWF at the point I referenced, which was I hadn't watched wrestling for probably, I don't know, since I was a little kid, and I put it on one day like, I'm going to give this a shot. It seems like people like it. And I turned it on just at the moment where some old lady was giving birth, like an 80-year-old lady was giving birth to a human hand. And I was like, what is this? This is the worst. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Maybe I know, but I'll tell you what, if you want to find Paul's era, it was when John Cena started rapping.
Okay.
And John Cena started kind of going off and then became like the Recruit or whatever the heck those action movies are. And like Batista and Stone Cold and Booker T and those guys. Like I went to the WrestleMania party one year, and I'm walking down I'm getting food, right? Like there's a buffet, and someone cuts in the buffet next to me, and I'm not going to say anything in this room because everybody's bigger than me, and I'm sitting there just kind of like putting stuff on my plate, and this person's next to me, and I hear this, "Some goddamn good shrimp, man. You got to get in on this shrimp." And it was Stone Cold Steve Austin. I was like, and I look up and I'm like, "I absolutely will." Stone Cold. And he goes, "Yeah, man, this is a good shrimp. You won't regret it, man." Eat the shrimp. The shrimp was good.
All right. So Chris, to answer your question, I just Googled it. The day that you turned on WWF and saw a hand being birthed was on February 28th, 2000.
Okay.
So 5 years before Paul was there.
He was doing Ring of Honor at that time. In Philly, in Matt's neck of the wood, with the Insane Clown Posse.
Well, I want to talk about
I went down to a Ring of Honor show, and they were like, "Here's a surprise."
Speaking of
Insane Clown Posse.
Speaking of ICP, Jimmy, Mouth of the South Hart. Actually, the last piece of anything I have of interest about him was in 2010. He appeared in the ICP movie Big Money Rustlers.
Boy, did he!
That's amazing. And Paul's performed at the Gathering, and he said, "I've never been embraced by an audience as much as at the Gathering."
Hell yeah.
We hear those stories about the Gathering and everybody being so warm and this and that. And if you want to hear the answer, like who's the nicest person that was in the WWE with Paul, and obviously like John Cena is somebody he loves, and they're friends. And I love that like Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes put Paul over in a podcast a few months ago and talked about him at length, and that was so cool. And Paul was surprised by it when I said it to him. Batista bought him the most lunches, is what I'm hearing. And so I got to tell Batista when we were doing coverage on Guardians of the Galaxy, I said, hey man, like, dude, thanks for looking out for my brother.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love your brother, man.
Nice.
That's good stuff. I love your brother. And I was like, thank you, Drax the Destroyer.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Hey,
it was super cool.
I do want to talk about Hero of the Prophecy with you a little bit, Jonathan. I have a game for you guys, but before we get to the game, I want to talk about this because I got to tell you, I'm going to get into the lore a little bit without spoiling anything. I got to tell you, I start learning about the people of Amaron, how they used to be the mightiest before everyone was enslaved by Ramzar the Betrayer, okay? And then I see this dude, and I'm like, oh boy, this is awesome. There's this owl guy, Frazier of the owl people. And I'm like, this dude is badass. Like, oh, this is my man right here. I got to tell you, this is no spoiler. Frazier, he's a little bit of a bitch. I'm so disappointed what a bitch Frazier is.
Frazier is just trying to keep his people alive. I base the owls on the mystics from Dark Crystal.
Okay.
And so remember the beginning of Dark Crystal, the mystics come out and they sing to the sunrise. Like that I just ripped that and gave it to the owls. This is you see Frazier in action at the beginning of issue 2.
Okay.
And you could, but like this is a group that have had these owls have had their forest destroyed, and they were like the custodians of magic for this world, and the magic was destroyed because this forest was burned down, what they called their homes, and they were sent to live in this cold mountain and live off the bugs and the rocks, and that's where you meet Frazier. So yeah, he's broken, and he has like a really cool flashback in issue 2.
Okay.
And then he has one of my favorite moments in the end of the story.
He's gonna have to win me back, but
good. Well, I don't know if he's gonna win you back, but I think Finnegan's gonna be your favorite character. I think Finnegan's gonna be everybody's favorite character.
Okay.
Well, John, I'm gonna throw this out there because there's obviously this is just for issue 1. There's gonna be many more issues from here. Maybe they'll be kickstarted, maybe they won't. But if they are kickstarted in the future, I think you set like one of those impossible goals. You know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, for $10,000, we'll make some action figures of these fucking owl people because I would have those owl people all over my goddamn basement.
I love the owl people, and they are basically the mystics from Dark Crystal, but without sexies as like their counterparts. But they're the ancient race on that planet, and they're being smacked around because obviously the evil wizard is ruling the planet and can't have any threats. So magic's outlawed, helping other people is outlawed, keeping everybody separate.
That all sounds like something that could never happen here, John.
Oh yeah, it couldn't happen in the United States at all. There's no. And then you got so they see wrestling through a portal and they see Paul and they're like, look at how the arena cheers for him. He's the greatest fighter ever. They can't hear what's happening, and so they summon a pro wrestler to the planet to be their hero. Their prophecy. It's very Galaxy Quest, very of our Army of Darkness, very Big Trouble Little China, very very Three Amigos, where it's a mistaken identity, and it's like, well, good luck. And then he's like, guys, I don't really fight. Kind of pantomime it,
right?
Yeah.
And now he has to save them and lead them to defeat Ramzar and free the kingdoms and this that. Who knows? It may not happen. We'll find out.
What a sad comic if that's how it ends.
You got to get
your love letter to your brother ends with your brother dying.
My stepmom was flipping through it and she's like, "Wow, you really bury Paul a lot in this. Like he gets his ass kicked the entire time." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you give him somewhere to start." But I think by the end of it, you guys will be surprised by who takes the front. And I love Chitara. She starts very angry. She just wants revenge and her father's sword. She doesn't care if she dies. She doesn't care about anything. And I think by the end of it, she's one of my favorite. I mean, they're all my favorite characters. And Paul clearly is one of my favorite things and people. And I did write it as a love letter because when he and the WWE split, we were walking out of Mickey Rourke's The Wrestler. And and he was pretty messed up about it. He was like, is that what I am? Is this all I'm gonna be? Is that my future? And he's like, I had this dream since I was a kid to be in WWE, and I think it's behind me. And that scared the shit out of me. So I wrote the entire outline for Hero of the Prophecy that weekend. I was like, let me write a story where you're the hero again. Let me write something that tells you, you can, there's greatness in all of us, and that's kind of the story.
You
of it.
wrote this
That's
long
the story
ago
for all of them.
that you were walking
yeah.
out
I
of
wrote
The
the outline.
Wrestler? What year was that?
I wrote the outline. It was probably 2010.
Wow.
That I wrote the outline.
Yeah,
and
there's a demo reel on one of the Geekscape channels.
we shot
that
a
you can
sizzle.
watch. Yeah,
It's on Geekscape TV. We shot a
Yeah.
sizzle. We took the sizzle around to different places. Doug Jones was in it. Marisha Ray from Critical Role was in it. Yuri Lowenthal, who plays Spider-Man on the PlayStation games and is Ben 10. Like, we had a lot of cool friends in it. Some wrestlers are in it. We took it around and people are like, this is cool. I don't know if we get it. And I'm sitting there going, dude, it's Flash Gordon. It's like, it's a pretty simple concept. I think John Carter of Mars didn't help.
yeah.
The Disney big production of John Carter of Mars, which I actually love that one, but it's again a human from Earth in a fantastical
what's
world
not to
saving
get?
a kingdom.
Yeah. I also
I
think
think-
that it was just before Adult Swim started doing more live action stuff, because it
Sure.
feels like such a perfect Adult
Yeah.
Swim show, but it was like they weren't doing that quite yet when you were shopping it around.
If anything, what happened with one of the companies, Machinima, that got bought by Warner Brothers, like I remember meeting with them and they were like, we love this, we want to make it, but we got to find out where the budget comes from. And when the sponsors didn't show up, it was hard for them to sell it. They came back to me with hey, could you do He-Man? And I was like, yeah. And so they were like, okay, John Schnepp will direct it and you can write it with him. And John Schnepp's our late friend who did Metalocalypse and stuff like that. He's an animator and just a really fun guy that Matt and I used to be neighbors with at the Comic-Con booths. And
That was a rough Comic-Con when he died. He died the day
when he-
before Comic-Con,
That's right.
and his booth was
And-
just empty beside us. It was
I
like
think
a
that was-
visual for him.
2017 or 2018. And
Chris, have you ever seen the documentary about Superman Lives? That's the person we're talking about.
That's
Have you
his.
seen that documentary?
John directed that one.
I don't think I saw it.
In
but-
About like the Nicolas Cage Superman movie story that was going to be directed by it's Chris. It
Tim
is
Burton.
up your
It got
alley.
within,
You'll
like-
love the shit out of it.
Chris, what happens? The death of Superman Lives, like that. They got within like 2-3 weeks of shooting that movie, and Batman and Robin just did that poorly that
Oh,
it took all the superheroes with it.
wow.
But we, I took some of the Hero of the Prophecy stuff. No, I took some of the He-Man stuff that I'd written and turned into the Hero of the Prophecies full script. I had an outline. I kind of knew what I wanted, but whatever. It's a comic now, and that's because the Hollywood strikes. Like when my movie no work showed up during the Hollywood strikes, I said, I got to tell Hero of the Prophecy.
Nice.
So in 2023, I took all the stuff I'd written for Hero of the Prophecy over and over and over again. I wanted to make it a TV show, wanted to make it a movie. Now it's a comic book. Maybe it'll be those things one day, but the comic book I think is, I'm
It's
really
the most
happy with it.
sensible route right now. Anyway.
I mean,
Hell
It
yeah!
could be
and now
all
we can
those
open up a
things
new
for
branch of
free.
Geekscape.
it can be all those things.
Yeah.
And
The first Geekscape comic,
that's
Not
Hero
the
of the
last.
Prophecy.
that is
No.
that is awesome.
Because I want to write Super Action Man right now. With what's going on with our country?
That's awesome, man. So anyone who wants to be a part of the Kickstarter, you can search Hero of the Prophecy Kickstarter, unless you have an easier way for them to get there, Jonathan.
Yeah, HeroTheProphecy.com.
HeroTheProphecy.com. Check it out. I already read the first issue and I think it's awesome. And I'm here. I'll admit it. I'm not like a comics guy. And when it ended, I'm like ready for issue 2. I'm like, let's go. Because
Yeah.
I'm set up. I'm ready to go. So I'm excited for issue 2. But for right now, let's get that Kickstarter going for issue 1.
Thanks, man.
And
Can I throw out a new idea? I'm going to pitch this right now in front of Chris.
Okay.
But John, we're going to do Hero of the Prophecy. We're going to do Super Action Man. Can I pitch the third comic book for the Geekscape Comics line, The Adventures of Punchline, which is just that it follows the band Punchline in Scooby-Doo murder mystery type ways, where each city they go to for a show, there's a new mystery that they have to
how
solve.
about the one
Well,
hit
before they
wonder
get on
comic
stage.
book?
You find out that Toledo is just like a hellmouth. Like demons are coming out of it and shit
No
like that.
offense,
Like, guys,
Toledo. No offense,
Yeah.
Toledo.
no offense, Toledo.
Or do we
but
bring back Whistle Pig? Like, there's so many
Listen,
options that
guys,
we have.
the danger with doing this crap with me.
Or Texas Toast.
is-
Does Texas
like,
Toast get his own comic book series?
I'd love to see Tony and collaborate with Tony. I think he's brilliant. But guys, don't do this to me because I have insomnia. I have a 6-month-old and insomnia, and this is the crap that happens at 3 a.m. Like I just start outlining this stuff in my head, and then 10 years later, I'm on a podcast being like, "So yeah, it started with Matt Kelly started being like Tales of Punchline and how they saved Toledo from being consumed into hell."
Look, I will say that this is probably the ultimate time to do a comic book about a podcast. I noticed that shows, there's so many shows and movies where people the plot is these people have a podcast together and stuff. It's probably time for the One Hit Thunder comic book where something.
Or the horror movie night kids to solving
there you go.
becoming
we're
the
like
next
a monster
squad.
Yeah.
And it's Scott just complains the whole time. I'm fucking with you, Scott. I love you.
All this to say, are you guys ready to play a game?
Oh boy,
Yeah.
am I. Chris, John, you're going down.
So
I probably am. Yeah, you're right.
So to buzz in, you say, I keep on dancing. Whoever says I keep on dancing first, that's how you buzz in. But keep in mind, don't buzz in if you don't know the answer because you will get minus a point if you answer it wrong. So be careful. All right?
How many questions?
There was going to be 7, but now there's only 6 because you guys already answered one of them.
Buzzing in.
Okay.
Bobby Boris Pickett.
Yeah, that was the one. That was question 3.
+5.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On January 26th, 1987, Jimmy Hart guided the Hart Foundation to the WWF World Tag Team title, which they won from what tag team of first cousins whose real names are David Smith and Tom Billington?
Keep on dancing.
Go ahead, Matt.
Was that the British Bulldogs?
You got it. Man.
If it's wrestling, I'm just gonna bow out and be like, enjoy it, Matt.
There is,
But no, I think I can do it. Let's stay on it. I'm not bowing out yet, Matt.
Okay. Matt's
Not
up
bowing
1-0.
out yet. Good.
On June 2nd, 1987, Jimmy Hart was in the corner of the Honky Tonk Man when he captured the Intercontinental Heavyweight title from which wrestler of English and Japanese American descent?
I'll risk going down the 0 points. Keep on dancing.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, wait. Is that Haku?
That is incorrect. I think you're thinking of the singer who sang Another Dumb Blonde.
I know. You know what I meant. Whatever that guy's name is.
We're all tied up, Matt, and all I had to do is keep my damn mouth shut.
Okay, now that I have it wrong, was it Yokozuna?
Nope, it was Ricky.
It was the Dragon.
Yeah.
The Dragon Steamboat.
You should have
Why did
answered
you buzz
it.
in?
Because I don't want to go negative, dog.
Wow.
I'm all about positivity in 2025, but I was like, it's the Dragon.
I say give him a point. He answered that before you gave the answer. I say John's 1 to my 0.
Wow, you're
I
spotting
appreciate
him a
it,
point.
Matt, I appreciate it. And not
All
just
right.
because I run the Geekscape Network. Well, you run the network. I founded the network. We got it.
Okay.
You don't have to kiss up to me, sir.
There's 1.5 more wrestling questions out of the questions that are left. You guys already, this isn't a question. The third question was the Gentrys were featured in the 1967 musical comedy film It's a Bikini World, which starred which past One Hit Thunder episode subject, known for his novelty 1962 number 1 hit? That would be Bobby Boris Pickett. Okay. So right now, what is it? Jonathan's up 1-0 because you gave him a point.
Yes, I gave him that point.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Jimmy Hart's appearance at King of the Ring in 1993 would mark his, Hulk Hogan, and Brutus Beefcake's last time in the WWF when he was in Hogan's corner as he lost the WWF World Heavyweight title to who?
What's the year again?
1993. So it was Hulk Hogan, Brutus Beefcake, and Jimmy Hart's last appearance in the WWF when he was in Hulk Hogan's corner when he lost the title to who?
And it wasn't a tag match.
Keep on dancing.
Go ahead, Matt.
Was this when Bret Hart finally got it?
That is incorrect.
Oh, no!
Matt's down to -1.
I'm
Jonathan.
not going to guess. I'm not going to
Then
guess
the
it.
other guess I had was Shawn Michaels. It was
That's
one of the
incorrect,
two of them.
It was actually Yokozuna.
I was so close. Sorry.
Yeah, and I would have thrown out something that's just completely inaccurate. Like I would have done like a Macho Man or an Ultimate Warrior or somebody that was kind of getting their legs under them.
No, oh my
Macho
God,
Man
I'm
was popular
such
by
an
then.
idiot.
Maybe
Yeah.
Macho Man was done by then.
It went to Yokozuna so Bret Hart could beat Yokozuna.
I bet you wish you didn't. I bet you wish you didn't spot that point to Jonathan now because you only have 3 questions left and you got to pretty much run the table here, Matt.
I still might do it.
Okay,
I'll just keep my mouth shut again.
here we go.
First time ever.
Finish these lyrics from verse 2 of Shawn Michaels' entrance music.
Okay.
I'm ready.
I
Okay,
make
get
them,
myself ready.
I make them hot. I make them shiver. Their knees get weak whenever I'm around. They see me walk, they hear me talk. I make them feel blank.
God. Keep on dancing.
Go ahead.
Like they're on cloud nine.
You
I'm just
got
a
it.
sexy boy.
Wow.
I love it, Matt.
I love as a guy who doesn't really know this song, minus hearing it in some like TikToks and stuff, how these lyrics don't rhyme. Like,
At all.
How did the like they're on cloud nine does not rhyme with anything?
Nope.
And I'm trying to think of like what rhymes. It's just not going to happen.
No. Other quick note. I already told you to watch the Land of a Thousand Dances. Also on YouTube, search, because apparently Vince McMahon was unhappy with the vocal take and was like, let me get in the booth and do it. And there's a version of Vince McMahon singing Sexy Boy that is painfully uncomfortable to
That
listen
would
to.
really mess me up.
I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. I've got the looks that drive the girls wild. I got the moves that really move 'em. I said chill, up and down, that's fine. I make 'em hot. I make 'em shiver. Their knees get weak. Whenever I'm around, they see me walk. They hear me talk. I make 'em feel like they're on cloud nine. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy.
That would mess me up.
All right. All right.
Okay.
I'm 0-1. 0-1. I can do
wow,
this.
Matt still has
I
a
think
chance.
I think you can do it, brother.
Jimmy Hart appears in the 2011 independent Canadian horror comedy film Monster Brawl, directed by Jesse Thomas Cook and starring which Canadian comedian known for his work on The Kids in the Hall?
There's a 1 in a 5 chance on
1 in
this.
5 chance. All right. I'm going to risk going to 0 and say keep on dancing.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Dave Foley.
You got it. Wow.
Damn
it. Sealed it up.
Yeah. All right. Let's do this last one just to see if I can get out of the 0.
Yeah.
That was my guess too, but I wanted to see if John would pick someone else and lower it down to a 1 in 4
No,
chance.
like former Geekscape guest Scott Thompson? No.
Yeah.
On the same week that Keep On Dancin' hit its peak on the Hot 100, Turn, Turn, Turn was on its way up, sitting at number 61 for what band featuring David Crosby on guitar?
Keep on dancing. I think
ahead.
that's the Birds. Was it the Birds that
or
did
the
Turn
Yard-
Turn?
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
correct. That's correct. The Birds. So Jonathan still wins 2-1, but
Guys,
good game.
that was harrowing. Well, my favorite is for you audio listeners, when we were doing the sexy dance during the Shawn Michaels, we were channeling Shawn Michaels'
Oh, yeah.
lyrics
You had
by
to.
doing the sexy dance.
The hands behind your head and a gyration.
Yeah, I remember. I'm enough of a fan of wrestling to know that. You know,
All right,
guys, thanks for doing this.
All right, guys. The Gentrys. Did they bring the one-hit thunder? Were they a one-hit blunder? Were they a hinder? Or were they a Greenwood? Is the real question. We'll start with our guest, Jonathan London. Did they bring the one-hit thunder? Were they a one-hit blunder? Were they a hinder? Or were they a Greenwood? You know what all these categories are, right?
Hinder is like the Kiss of an Angel band,
Yeah.
which we considered one of the worst songs we ever discussed.
No.
And,
Other than.
and
This-
and Lee Greenwood is like, they're not only a bad song, they're a terrible person
Yeah.
all around.
No. This is a one hit. They're a one hit wonder for sure.
Thunder.
Like they are
Thunder.
they are
You-
straight up the Oneaters from like
Yeah.
that thing you do. This is
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
They're Thunder.
All right, Matt.
I actually think I might go blunder on this. I don't think they're on the Lee Greenwood or Hinder super low end of things, but like I mean I listened to a couple of the other songs and there was nothing there but Keep On Dancing, and not for nothing, Keep On Dancing is a 3-word song. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with they kind of blundered their way into a hit, but you don't have to do a deep dive on the rest of the music from this group.
That's a pretty good point. I mean, now I'm the deciding factor. Now we know it isn't going to be certified thunder.
Yeah, we don't have to take this to my mom to be notarized or anything. But
That's true. But I could tip the scales here. I do love the whole Wonders style story of this band playing like battles of the bands and rising up the ranks. And then all of a sudden they have the number 1 song or number 4 song, I guess, in the country and sold 1 million copies. That's pretty cool. That was
their MySpace.
Yeah.
What?
That was their MySpace.
Yeah.
That was their MySpace.
Right. But it was a pretty quick fall off. And then the whole rest of the band was just kind of Jimmy Hart trying to recapture that with a different cast of characters and then becoming a wrestling legend, you know?
Yeah.
He definitely parlayed this into some sort of success somehow. But as far as the Gentrys go, yeah, I guess I'm going to have to agree with Matt. There's no real reason to like go out to your local record store and try to pick up those Gentrys records. Not a lot.
You
of
know
reason
that
for
they're out there in the dollar bins of people's record collections.
They're on record. You know,
Yeah.
they're still 7 inches at that point.
Yeah.
No, they did put out albums. I mean, like, I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying
Nobody cares.
They weren't only singles.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll go blunder on this too. So we're gonna go blunder on the Gentrys, but who are we to say that Jimmy Mouth of the South Hart is a blunder? Because obviously he's had a long career. I would say his biggest blunder was in recent times when he decided to
Align himself with Hulk Hogan.
Yes, align yourself with the Hulk Hogan at this point, where Hulk Hogan is just an unrepentant piece of shit. I would say that like you're showing your true colors. Like I wouldn't even want to accidentally get my picture taken with Hulk Hogan. Like not even to be funny
or to get spray tan on your body.
You know, I know you guys don't watch football, but the Detroit Lions this past year were pretty good. They lost in the playoffs, but they were pretty good. And I liked their story because they never won a Super Bowl. But at some point before the playoffs, their coach, who I also kind of like, got like, he did like some sort of promo or took pictures with Hulk Hogan. And I was like, at that point, I was like, fuck them. I hope they lose now. Just because. And he probably wasn't even paying attention to any of the Hulk Hogan drama. But if you have anything to do with Hulk Hogan at this point, I think you suck. And so that's just me, but maybe there's other people that feel like me.
No, there's something to be said for staying informed, and he was not informed. Or if he was, then he definitely sucks.
I think you'd have to be living under a fucking rock to not see Hulk Hogan at the RNC ripping his shirt off in support of a fucking racist rapist. I think you'd have to live under the biggest rock ever. So fuck Hulk Hogan, fuck Jimmy Hart, blunder.
Gentrys Keep On Dancing's all right song. Go ahead and listen to it.
The rest of the guys in the Gentrys, I'm sure they're either cool or dead. So
yeah,
whatever.
I mean, you can listen to Keep On Dancing, or you can put on The Toys.
Yes.
A Lover's Concerto, and do that instead.
Yes.
Support the black women. Put on The Toys.
This has been One Hit Thunder. One Hit Thunder is hosted by Chris Fafalios of the band Punchline and produced by Matt Kelly of Geekscape.net. Underneath me, you're hearing Greatest Party Ever off the Punchline album Delightfully Pleased. Visit punchlinemusic.com for any upcoming news on the band. Our podcast is on Patreon, so find us at patreon.com/OHT podcast for early access to episodes, bonus conversations, and a chance to vote on future songs for us to cover. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting app, and tune in next week for more One Hit Thunder.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Hey, this is Dewey Halpus, host of Peer Pleasure on the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Join me each week as I explore another long-form conversation with one of your favorite musicians, actors, comedians, or creatives. From Chino Moreno of the Deftones, John Gorley of Portugal the Man, to Fat Mike from NoFX and Ian MacKaye from Fugazi and Minor Threat, we go all over the map. From Fall Out Boy to Slayer, Peer Pleasure has it all. Check us out now on Sound Talent Media.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bruce.
And I'm Nolan, and this is the Corner of Gray Street podcast. As longtime Dave Matthews Band fans, we set out to create a podcast to dive deep into the past, present, and future of DMB.
Not only do we recap and review shows within an ongoing tour, but we revisit past shows from throughout the band's history, conduct interviews with a wide variety of guests with ties to DMB, and create unique and exclusive content like our Concerts on the Corner series.
Whether you're a fan of the band or just a fan of great music, we think you'll find something you'll enjoy. We can't wait to see you on The Corner of Gray Street.
Hi, I'm Daniela Clark.
I'm Barbara Ann Wild.
And we are the Honest AF Show.
Our podcast is real, honest conversation with our celebrity friends and pros.
Covering our anything but average rock and roll lifestyles.
All while tackling the hell that is aging and the battle of beauty.
Oh yeah, nothing is off the table.
The Honest AF Show is available wherever you get your podcasts.